Good morning, everyone. I'm Heidi, and I will be working with you through our 45-minute Vinyasa flow this morning. If you would like, do have a block and or a blanket handy to help support you in your practice today. So as we begin, let's come to a comfortable seated position. Feel those sits bones rooting down into the mat. Maybe you need to wiggle around just a little bit to fully engage your sits bones into the earth. Gently float your eyes closed. Give your shoulders a roll or two up and back, feeling your shoulder blades track down your spine and feel a little bit of opening through the chest area. Your hands can rest palms down or palms up on your mat, on your lap. And just breathe. Relax your forehead, relax your jaw. And as we start noticing our breath, just notice where it is today. Feel the breath moving in through your nose and then back out. Just observing where your breath is today. No judgment. And as thoughts enter our minds when we come to stillness, as they always do, just acknowledge those thoughts and send them on their way. And return back to the observance of your breath. Returning to our breath helps us become more mindful and more observant of being in the moment. So we'll just sit here for the next several breaths in stillness and quiet meditation. On your next inhale, gently float your eyes open, maybe blinking a few times to readjust to the light. Then float your hands up in front of you into Anjali Mudra, connecting your palms at heart center. And from here, let's move into our tabletop. So on tabletop, gently feel the 10 pads of your fingers gently gripping the mat, and that brings a little bit of lift into your palms and gives you a good foundation through your hands. And then stack your wrists under your elbows and your elbows under your shoulders. Bring your knees about hip width distance apart, and your toes can be tucked or untucked. From here, take an inhale And send the crown of your head toward the front of the room and your tailbone back, feeling a bit of expansion through the back area and the spine. Gently press the mat away with your fingertips, helping to relax your shoulders. On your next inhale, leading with your tailbone, lift your tailbone up to the sky, drop your belly, and send your gaze forward. Again, relaxing your shoulders, engaging your core into cow pose. And then on an exhale, again, leading with your tailbone, tuck your tailbone under, arch your back upward, send your gaze back towards your feet into Halloween cat pose. Inhale, again, leading with your tailbone, come back into your cow. And maybe you sink a little deeper into your cow with a little bit more arch in the low back. Then exhale, leading with your tailbone once again into your cat pose. And let's move through several cycles of cat-cow together at the pace of your own breath. Be mindful of your shoulders. Try not to bring your shoulders and scrunch them up towards your ears. Keep them nice and relaxed. Keep your belly engaged. No hurry here. And maybe you even reverse the flow of your breath. Maybe you exhale into cow and inhale into cat. Just to play a little bit this morning and see how that changes the movement in your body. And wherever you're at, take an inhale and return to your neutral tabletop. From here, walk your left hand under your face and gently gripping the mat with that left hand, lift your right hand up and rotate open to the right, lifting your right arm up overhead. And on an exhale, lower that right arm, send it behind your left arm, and bring that right arm all the way over to the left and land your right ear and shoulder on the mat. Maybe feel a gentle stretch through the back of your shoulder here. And see what happens if you try to square your hips to the mat and bring more of that twist into your upper back. Take an inhale here and slowly engage the core, lift up and rotate back open to the right once again. And this time on an exhale, turn your palm so it faces behind you, bend your elbow and land the back of the right hand onto your low back. Inhale here, just stretch the crown of your head toward the front of the room. And exhale, see if you can twist through the chest just a little bit more to open up the chest a little bit more. Then on an inhale, release your half bind and exhale that right arm once again through over to the left, threading the needle. Take a full exhale here. And on your next inhale, pressing through your left hand up, release the twist. Inhale that right arm up overhead, and then exhale the right hand down to replace the left and immediately twist open to the left. Lifting through your chest, extending those fingertips up towards the ceiling. And on an exhale, send the left arm over to the right, landing your left ear on the mat. And breathe. Again, try squaring your hips to the mat, making a little more rotation through the chest. And then inhale here, untwisting and rising up, coming out and over to the left. On an inhale, rotate your left palm toward the back of the room. Bend your elbow and land the back of your hand on your low back. Inhale to expand the spine. Exhale to twist maybe a little bit more. Then on an inhale, release your bind, exhaling the left arm through to the right once again. Take a full exhale here. And then on an inhale, slowly release your twist, bringing that left arm up overhead. Then exhale the left hand down underneath your left shoulder and bring your right hand underneath your right shoulder. And from here, walk your hands forward a few centimeters, and we're just going to say hello to our core here for a few moments. So you can keep your toes tucked or untucked here. Maybe if you have them tucked, you untuck them, or vice versa, wherever you've been through our previous asanas. And on an inhale, drop your navel toward the mat without moving your hips. And on an exhale, gently contract your navel back in towards your spine to engage your core. Inhale, release the navel. Exhale, bring the navel back into your spine. Let's do that just a few more times. Pace of your own breath. The low core. And engaging our core, of course, as we work through our asanas, helps to protect our low back and provides us with stability as we move. Sometimes it's just good to reacquaint with what that feels like without feeling we need to move through a pose. And on your next inhale, engage your core. Send the crown of your head toward the front of the room, your tailbone back. Tuck your toes under if they're not already tucked, and send your hips up and back into our first downward facing dog. Maybe you pedal out your knees a little bit here. And on an exhale, come to stillness. And then on your next inhale, walk or float your feet forward to your hands, coming into a forward fold. Bend your knees as much as you need to bring your chest to your thighs. And on an inhale, through the strength of your feet, pressing down through all four corners of your feet, slowly come all the way up, sweeping your arms up overhead. Touching your hands at the top in Anjali Mudra. Exhale, release your hands apart into goalpost arms. Take an inhale here, sending your gaze up toward the ceiling. And on an exhale, bend your knees and slowly sink down into your chair pose. Send your weight to your heels. Check in that you can see your toes over your knees. Rotate your thighs in toward midline for stability. And then on an inhale, root to rise, come all the way up to standing. Then on an exhale, lower back into your chair pose again. Send your hands down to heart center in Anjali Mudra. Inhale here to send the crown of your head toward the ceiling, and then exhale, rotate over to the right, landing your left elbow on your right thigh. Send the weight to your heels. Maybe you press your palms together a little bit to get more into the twist. And keep your knees in one line. Take a full exhale here. And on an inhale, release your twist. Slowly come back up to standing. Touch your hands together overhead. Exhale your hands to goalpost arms X. And on that same exhale, come on down to your chair pose. Inhale here. Exhale, bring your hands down into prayer and rotate over to the left. Inhale to send your crown of your head forward. Exhale to get a little bit more into that twist. Take a full exhale here. And on an inhale, slowly release your twist and come all the way up to standing, touching your hands overhead. Exhale your hands apart. And then on the same exhale, come back into your chair pose. See if you can go a little deeper this time. Send your gaze forward a couple of meters in front of you for stability. On an inhale, come all the way up to standing. Exhale, come all the way down, hinging at the hips into your forward fold. Inhale, come up into a halfway lift. Exhale, all the way back down into your forward fold, bending your knees as much as you need to get your hands to the floor. And on an inhale, walk or float your feet back into downward facing dog. Inhale, come into your plank or low plank. And then exhale, bringing your elbows together. Slowly bend your elbows. Come all the way down to the floor. Forehead, chin, chest. Release your knees and bring your legs all the way back behind you. Bring your hands under your shoulders. And on an inhale, raise your chest. Engage your legs into the mat, into your low cobra. Exhale your forehead down to the mat. Inhale, lift your chest up off the mat. Gently engage your glutes, coming into low cobra. Exhale your forehead all the way to the mat. Tuck your toes under and lift your hips all the way up and back into downward facing dog. Make any micro adjustments you might need to here. Maybe you need to shorten the distance between your hands and your feet. Maybe widen them. And after your next exhale, inhale and lift your right foot up behind you into three-legged dog. Exhale, bend the right knee, floating that right knee towards your nose and holding it right here for a crunch. Inhale, then float the right foot forward between your hands. Exhale, bring that back knee down. Inhale, using your core, come all the way up into a low lunge. Relax your shoulders. Spread your fingers wide, extending your arms all the way high. Then exhale, bring your hands down to frame your front foot. Inhale, lift your back knee up and sweep your front leg back. And immediately on an inhale, bring your left leg up into three-legged dog. Exhale, bend your left knee, crunch that left knee towards your nose for a moment. And on an inhale, land the left foot between your feet. Exhale your back knee down, coming up into low lunge on the other side. And breathe here for a moment. Try to bring your elbows back just a little bit toward the back of the room. Take an inhale here, rooting to rise and expanding your spine. Exhale your hands down to frame your front foot. Inhale, lift your back knee and sweep your front leg back into downward facing dog. And let's be here for a couple cycles of breath. Keep your knees and your elbows soft. Sink your heels toward the mat. If they don't get there, that's okay. On an exhale, send your gaze back to your feet. Inhale your right leg up into three-legged dog, pressing through the heel, and maybe you spread your toes a little bit, saying hello to your toes. Exhale, bend your right knee, send your right knee towards your nose, crunch here for a breath. And on an inhale, float or step your right foot between your hands. Exhale your back knee down. Inhale to come up into your low lunge. Take a breath here. And on an inhale, tuck your back toes under and lift your back knee up off the mat into high lunge. Keep your legs strong. Rotate your thighs in toward midline. Exhale, lower the back knee down. Inhale the back knee up. Exhale the back knee down. Inhale the back knee up once more. Then exhale the back knee down, sending your hands to the mat, lifting your back knee up, float your right leg back into your downward dog. And on your next inhale, immediately lift your left leg up behind you in three-legged dog. Exhale, bend the left knee, send the left knee towards your nose. Crunch for a breath. And on your next inhale, float or step your left foot forward between your hands. Exhale, your back knee down. Inhale, come up into your low lunge. Maybe lifting your chest just a couple millimeters. Take a breath here. Tuck, and then on an inhale, tuck your back toes under and lift that back knee up off the mat into high lunge. Exhale, back knee down. Inhale, back knee up. Exhale, down. One more time. Inhale, up. Exhale, down. And at the same time, float your feet, float your hands to the floor. Lift your back knee. Float your left leg behind you and come back into downward dog. And let's stay here in downward dog for 5 cycles of breath. And on your next exhale, send your gaze to the back of the mat. And on an inhale, float your torso forward into plank or low plank. And exhale, bend your elbows and come through a chaturanga. Inhale forward into your up dog or high cobra. Exhale back into downward facing dog. And on your next inhale, lift your right leg up behind you. Again, pressing through the heel, wiggling those toes. Exhale, bend the right knee. Exhale to crunch. 2 cycles of breath, our crunch this time. And on your next inhale, float that right foot between your hands. Exhale, bring the left knee down. Inhale, come up into your low lunge, really stretching those arms up overhead. Take another breath here. And let's pulse through our high and low lunge together, but at the own pace, the pace of your own breath. So inhale, high lunge. Exhale, low lunge. Let's pulse up and down a few times like that. A little shaking is okay. And after your next inhale in high lunge, exhale and rotate that back heel out in 85, 90 degrees and send your arms out in opposite directions into your warrior two. Check in, make any micro adjustments you need to. Changing up your stance, making sure that front heel is in line with your back arch and that your front knee is also tracking over your front ankle. Square your hips to the side of the mat. Inhale and rise up in both side bodies. And send your gaze out over your front middle finger. On an inhale, gently pressing down through the strength of your feet. Exhale and cartwheel your hands down to frame your front foot. Sweep your front foot behind you and into high plank or low plank. Exhale, squeeze some lemons beneath your armpits and slowly come down to chaturanga. Inhale into high cobra or up dog. Exhale back into your downward facing dog. Take 2 cycles of breath here. And on your next exhale, send your gaze toward the back of your mat. Inhale the left leg up, pressing out through that heel, wiggling your toes. Exhale, bend that left knee, crunch it towards your nose. Crunch for 2 cycles of breath this time. And on your next inhale, float or step the foot between your hands. Exhale, bring the back knee down. Inhale, coming up into low lunge. Take a breath here. And let's pulse between high and low lunge. The own pace of your breath. And on your next inhale, stay in high lunge. Exhale, spin the back heel down 85, 90 degrees. Bring your arms out on either side of you, stretching those arms out and wiggling those fingers, coming into your warrior two on the other side. Send your gaze out over your front middle finger. Root down through those feet, rise up through the crown. Tuck your tailbone under. Inhale, root to rise. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down to frame your front foot. Spin over on your back foot. Float your left leg back and come into downward dog. Inhale, forward to your high or low plank. Exhale, down through chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, down dog. And let's be here for 5 cycles of breath. If you feel you need a little bit of movement here, again, pedal out your feet. And on an exhale, send your gaze once again to the back of your mat. Inhale. Then exhale, bend your knees slowly and hover your knees just a few centimeters above the mat. Engage your fingertips, press the front of your mat away with your hands, relaxing your shoulders. Take an inhale here, and then exhale, slowly bring your knees all the way to the mat. Untuck your toes, bring your big toe mounds to touch. You can bring your knees as wide as the mat, or you can bring your knees together. And on an exhale, send your sits bones back towards your heels, coming into child's pose. You can keep your arms stretched up overhead, or you can float your arms down beside you, landing your palms close to your feet. You can shake your head side to side, giving a little massage to your forehead, reminding it to relax. Take a nice full exhale here out through your mouth. And on your next inhale, walk your hands forward if they're behind you. Land them in front of you and come up briefly into your tabletop. And from here, then come into a comfortable seated position. And stay here for a beat. And then bring your legs out in front of you if they're not already there, and then bring them apart into a straddle. Reacquaint your sits bones with your mat. Roll your shoulders up, down, and back. And on an exhale, twist over to your right, bringing your torso in line with your right leg. Inhale your arms out in front of you, and on an exhale, leading with your chest, hinging at the hip, come forward over that right leg. And once you can't move forward anymore, just land your hands on your foot or on the floor and curve your spine into a C, dropping your head towards your right knee. Keep your toes pointed up toward the ceiling. And on your next inhale, walk your hands back in towards center, slowly raising your torso and your head up. And on an inhale, come through center, and then exhale, rotate over to the left. Inhale your arms out in front of you. Then exhale, leading with your chest and hinging at the hips. Come forward, landing your hands on the floor or around your foot. Once you can't come forward anymore, drop your head towards your knee. Try to keep that right sits bone down on the mat. And on your next inhale, walk your hands back towards center, slowly rising up through the torso. Exhale here. Then inhale, bring your torso to midline. Take a breath here, rising up through the crown. Roll your shoulders up, down, and back. And on an exhale, walk your hands forward. Hinge at the hips. Bringing your chest forward. And again, once you can't send your chest forward any further, curve that spine into a C. Letting your head go, releasing your forearms to the ground. Keep your toes pointed up toward the ceiling. And on your next inhale, walk your hands back in, lifting up through the support of your hands. And exhale here, and with the support of your hands, bring your legs together in front of you and give them a little bounce. We've worked those legs hard this morning. And from here, readjust your sitting position. Find those sits bones. Keep your knees soft. Inhale your hands forward. And on an exhale, you know what's coming. Send your hands forward, leading with your chest. Hinge your torso over your legs. Landing your hands on the floor, or maybe you make peace fingers around your toes. And then curve your spine into a C and drop your head. Our most intense stretch of our class. Keep breathing. And on an inhale, release your peace fingers, walk your hands back, lift up through the torso, roll your shoulders back, lifting your chest and sending your gaze up towards the sky. On an exhale, bring your spine back to neutral and bounce your legs up and down one more time. So from here, let's bring our soles of our feet together, releasing our knees toward the mat into a butterfly pose. Your feet can be as close to or as far away from your sits bones as you like. And then from here, we're going to bring our knees together and the soles of our feet to the mat. Next, bring your left heel under your right leg and land your left heel close to your right sits bone. And using the support of your arms and your hands, bring your right heel over close to your left sits bone and stack your knees. If this is too much for you, come back to butterfly pose or maybe into Sukhasana. So once you've settled in, find your sits bones once again and engage them into the mat. Take an inhale, bring your arms forward, and then exhale, land your hands on to the floor, tenting your fingers. Walk your fingers forward just a little bit, bringing your chest closer to that top knee. Maybe you bend your elbows and land your elbows on the mat. Try to keep those sits bones down into the earth. Soften your gaze between your hands. Engage your fingertips into the floor and inhale, straighten your elbows, walk your hands back towards your feet, and carefully and mindfully unwind your legs, bringing both soles of your feet to the floor. And let's switch sides. So bring that right heel, threading the needle underneath your left leg, and bring that right heel close to your left sits bone. And with the support of your hands, guide your left heel close to your right sits bone, stacking your knees on this side. This side will very likely feel different from the other side. And again, if you can't quite get here, that's okay. Enjoy Sukhasana or butterfly. Bring your hands to the mat. Tent your fingers. Walk your hands forward, bringing your torso a little bit closer to that top knee. And land your hands on the floor. Bend your elbows, sinking your forearms toward the mat. Soften your gaze between your hands and breathe. Enjoy a bit of stretch through the piriformis area. And then on an inhale, mindfully walk your hands back in toward you and carefully unwrap your legs. And let's come into our boat pose. Root down through your sits bones. Inhale and lift your arms out in front of you. From here, you can keep both soles of your feet on the mat. Maybe you raise one or the other, or maybe you raise both into boat pose. Engage your core. Hold and breathe. And on an exhale, slowly come down to your mat, vertebrae by vertebrae. You can use your hands, bringing your hands to the back of your thighs for support. Maybe you bring your feet down to the floor. Come down slowly, bringing the vertebrae of your neck down last. Keeping your knees bent and your feet on the mat. Heel toe your feet about mat width distance apart and windshield wiper your legs back and forth. And from here, extend your left leg the full length of your mat. Heel toe your right foot in towards your left knee. On an inhale, swoop your left arm over to the outside of your right thigh. And on an exhale, let your left hand guide your right thigh over your left leg into a one-legged twist. Send your your right arm out to the side and your gaze out over your right arm. On your next inhale, carefully release the twist, releasing your right thigh. Send your right leg the length of your mat. Inhale your left knee to bend and bringing your left foot beside your right knee. Sweep your right hand over to the outside of your left thigh, and on an exhale, gently come into a twist on this side. Send your left arm out to the side and your gaze out over your left hand. Exhale to release your twist. Extend your left leg out and come into Savasana. And just let go here. Letting your body and mind incorporate all the good work you've done on your mat this morning. Float your eyes closed and just let go. Bring your awareness back to your breath. Maybe you shake your head side to side gently, bringing some gentle motions into your fingers and toes. Maybe you bring some gentle motions also into your wrists and your ankles. Then inhale your arms up overhead, engaging in a nice, juicy, full body stretch. Then bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet to your mat, and roll to one side or another into a fetal pose. Our first asana. Take a few gentle breaths here, in and out through your nose. And with the support of your hands, slowly come up into a comfortable seated position. Once you're there, bring your hands together into Anjali Mudra at heart center, touching your thumbs to your breastbone. Bow your nose towards your fingers. It's been a pleasure to practice with all of you today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Namaste.